All right, welcome to another episode of the Coffee Break Podcast, where our mission is to share business ideas, practices, and strategies. My name is Chad Lingafelt with Loc-Doc Security. Today, our guest is, as he says on his website, an entrepreneur, a speaker, a mentor, professor, author, and a snappy dresser.
Do it.
The bearded one.
See?
Yes, it's Chris Elmore from Mavick Exchange. We'll be talking with him right after this.
We got so much to say. We got a podcast to make. We're sipping on lattes, and it's time for a coffee break. It's time for a coffee break. Oh, yeah.
All right, welcome back. Chris, thank you very much for taking time out of your schedule to be here. We'll get into how I know you or how I was made aware of you in just a little bit. But before we do that, we do have a segment every episode on the podcast called Rapid Fire. 5 randomly selected questions to get to know you a little better with random unknown point values.
Do it.
Are you ready?
I want to dig into this random unknown point values thing. I like that.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good.
We'll figure it out at the
All
end.
right.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Number 1, what is your best idea for a reality TV show?
I want someone to follow around an entrepreneur who's in the startup phase, trying to figure it out.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do they not have that already?
I don't know. If they do, I should sue someone, I guess. It's a great idea.
It's an amazing
It's a valid idea. I think that my wife says about reality TV, because we're big on this thing.
Yeah.
And it's getting a little out of control.
Yeah.
But she says that real people are so much, more interesting than scripted people.
It is true.
I completely agree with that.
And we'll
So maybe my idea would be just to follow someone around.
just follow a random person around.
Yeah.
Maybe a street musician.
Yeah.
Number 2, how much
Inside
does a polar bear weigh?
Close to 7 stones. I use the British system so no one can do the math, and it sounds like I know what I'm talking about. 7 stones.
I like it. Let's go with it. Number 3, what's something about you that people would be surprised to know?
Gosh, this is getting a little personal
Yeah.
here. Something about
Third question
me that I think that I hate to say this, but I'm really humble.
Yeah?
I'm super humble.
Yeah?
I think that shocks people when they figure it out, because I come across as like I'm, fancy.
Yeah?
Yeah. My wife says I'm humble.
Well, when you show up with a Porsche, I mean, that's...
Yeah. Are we going to talk about that? Do you know the story of the Porsche?
I've heard a couple of stories.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it in a few minutes.
Okay, that's a cliffhanger.
There you go.
These are tough questions.
Number 3, no, this is number 4.
Yeah.
Number 4, what's the craziest thing on your bucket list?
I don't have a bucket list. I guess that would be the craziest thing.
Really?
I do.
I don't have one either, but I like to ask the question.
I do not plan for things that I need to do before I die. I just do them.
Got it.
Now, if I had like a goal, I want to go and follow the Tour de France around. I'm a huge cycling fan. Huge professional cycling fan, and I think it'd be neat to spend a month, July in France, checking it out.
I mean,
watching the races.
That's the worst thing that you could do. Awesome. All right, number 5, if you wrote a book, what would it be called?
Don't do stupid stuff.
Wow, that was what a segue. Where's the camera? Don't do stupid stuff.
That one's for you. I want to give that.
I appreciate it. Is it autographed?
No, we can do that. Though.
Okay,
that'll take it from $20 to $21.
I appreciate it. I was joking with you earlier, but I was serious. It's in my Amazon cart.
Yeah.
I was crossing my fingers that you would bring me one. So thank you for the savings of $20.
I shouldn't have.
Well, all right. So you passed the rapid fire test.
I like those. They were really tough.
Score 612.
7 stones.
7 stones. Yeah, there you go. All right, cool. Again, thank you for being here today. So I wanted to kind of talk about a little bit how the company that you represent, Mavick Exchange.
Yeah.
Is a large organization here in North Carolina and around the country now.
Yeah.
Was a customer of ours in a stage when you guys were kind of launching and growing, which was very exciting. And one of the things that I mentioned when we were getting coffee earlier was that I remember when you guys had your office just down the road from here, where our office is located, and then we helped to put in the key card system in your one of your spaces when you move. And it's been really interesting to see that transition, because it was, and I want to hear more about the story, because from my perspective, it was kind of a slow process, and then all of a sudden it just boom exploded. I was at a Creative Mornings here in Charlotte. It's a thing that they do the first Friday of every month, I believe, and they do it's a big thing with the creative community.
My favorite meetup.
Yes,
my favorite meetup.
It's one of the few that I've ever attended, and I went to the one at the Music Factory where you guys' headquarters are located, and you were announced as a speaker. And when they said where you were from, I knew, but I didn't know you other than that. You gave an amazing talk there, and it was very impactful. And that was right at a year ago. I actually went back. Yep. I saw it in my timeline. It was about a year ago, back last September.
Yep.
And all of the things that you talked about really resonated from an entrepreneur standpoint. And I was like, man, it'd be awesome. As we've been building this podcast, I said, this would be a great guy to have on here. I reached out to you on Instagram. Boom. Here we go.
There you go. And do you watch my Instagram feed?
I do. I'm a follower.
Stuff.
Yes. I'm surprised you didn't wear the hat today.
I'm on my motorcycle.
I guess it wouldn't have
we
stayed
should
on.
bring that in.
So all that to say, that's kind of why you're here. I think you have an interesting story, and especially the Avid Exchange story. I think a lot of business owners will kind of resonate with that. So tell us a little bit about the book, Don't Do Stupid Stuff, because I know you've written several books.
Yeah, that's 9. Yeah.
This is 9.
Yeah.
But you've written several other books, I would imagine, based solely off of the processes from the titles I saw, the processes that Avid Exchange handles. What brought you to this book?
Well, that's the book I've always wanted to write. When I was 18 years old, this is going to sound really stupid, so I'm going to say it. I had always wanted to be like a teacher, sales trainer, motivational guy.
Gotcha.
That was something that for some reason at 18, that was just, I wanted to be an influence to people. So anyway, the book came about because the company is growing like crazy. It's $1.4 billion in value now, and it got out at my high school class reunion a couple years ago that I helped start $1 billion company, and the way that it got out was I was telling everyone.
I was the carrier of information.
Yeah, I was like, hey, guess what I'm doing? Because that's who goes to reunions. Let's go ahead. I started with the athletes that are not looking real good at the moment, and worked my way down through the girls that wouldn't talk to me.
Yeah.
But so with kind of the rise of Avid Exchange, and you're exactly right, we hit a point where we went from 40 people to 1,000 really within about a year.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about that is that we hatched that plan and we hatched that idea just a couple of blocks away. I remember kind of the days leading up to, this is what we're going to do, and this is where we're going to kind of hang our hat, so to speak. And so every time I drive by that building, I think of
a lot of memories.
I think of those just kind of when you talk about the ideas, they seem a little crazy and outrageous, but really it was just good old fashioned. Now back to the book. One of the things that Avid Exchange had done for the last almost 20 years better than anybody is we made our calls.
Yeah.
We made our calls. We saw our people. We pitched our stuff. I've done 6,000 pitches and 5,000 cold calls.
Wow.
Those two numbers changed my life.
Yeah.
They literally changed my life. And I got to the point where I was a little fed up with selling's brand, and I have a secret that I'll share on this podcast.
All right.
And I've shared it in a lot of places, so I don't know how
much of a secret it is.
Big a scoop it is for you here. So I'd be careful about running with this.
Exclusive right here.
Yeah. Listen. But I have kind of a medium to long-term goal to get a professional selling curriculum at the collegiate level.
Awesome.
That's something that I've been working on for the last about 5 years. And the book comes out of a class that I've been teaching at Skill Pop. You ever taken Skill Pop?
I have not, but I'm very familiar with it.
It's got a selling class. It's got a macrame class. It's got the one that my wife wanted to take was chocolate tasting. And that's got to be pretty interesting.
What a rough class.
I know. You eat chocolate.
Yeah.
And you pay $20 to eat chocolate. I like that. But anyway, I've been teaching that class for about a year, and the whole point of the book is when society changes, it takes selling about 20 years to change right after it. So it's not, and they hold on to kind of the old ways. And it struck me that some of the things that we were doing, so one of the big things that salespeople are still holding on that's just really hurting them is back in the 80s, when my parents would go buy a washer or a dryer, they'd go to Sears and ask the sales rep, tell me all the features of this washer, and then they go, tell me about this one, tell me about this one, because the sales rep held all the information.
All the knowledge, yeah.
There was no other place that you could get that information.
Yep.
And, of course, in the early 90s, that completely changed. The Internet holds the information.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to encourage people, salespeople, entrepreneurs, anybody, I'm trying to encourage them that you have to have more information that's on the Internet. Your customers need that wisdom. Or you have to have information that kind of diffuses or debunks the information on the Internet.
Gotcha.
And I assume your business is probably a lot like that also, is that there's tons of information about what you do on the Internet, and loads of it is false.
Yeah, I mean that's an easy way to say it. It's either false or I don't want to say it's false, but it's not exactly. It doesn't all add up, right? There's components of it that is true, but it doesn't end to it doesn't lead to the actual end. So with that said, so your whole goal is, and you just mentioned it. You said to have more information on the Internet than to publish more information on the Internet. Is that what you just said?
The sales rep is going to have to change the way that they think and operate. And so the big crux of the change is that if you want to be helpful to your customers, you have to have either more information that's on the Internet, or you have to be able to kind of help them navigate that information that's on the Internet.
To kind of be a guide to help them get the process. One of the things that I asked you when we were getting coffee was understanding what Avid Exchange does, and we don't have to go into that in major detail here. I'm sure anybody that has a Google search can figure it out. You do payment processing.
Yep.
It's not something that people are shopping all the time. This is not something that people are just like, oh, I should figure out how to do a new payment processing way.
That's true.
So it really takes the transactional sales out of the picture. And you talk about consultative sales or relational sales. I mean, that is all that this is.
Well, so that's the bottom line of the book. The bottom line of the book is I want to change selling to teaching. Yep. And I think that a great salesperson nowadays has to be an excellent educator. And that's basically, now here's the thing about being innovative. One, if you're truly innovative, people have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's a key indicator that you're innovative. And two, they're terrified of you.
Yeah.
And that describes our prospective user base.
Yeah.
Is they have no idea what we're doing and they're terrified of us.
Gotcha.
So what's happened over the last 20 years is we've had to help people understand what the impact is, how it's going to affect them, take the fear out of the decision, and then teach them, what kind of conversations do you need to have. That's why I love Avid Exchange, because if you think about Avid Exchange, what the software does is it automates the accounts payable process.
Yeah.
No paper invoices, no paper checks. Here we go. I'm in the middle of a pitch. I can't help myself.
That was one of my points down
But
here.
what we really sell is time. If you think about it, on average, an average opportunity for us will free up 8,000 hours in an accounting department. So what I do is I educate them on the fact that you're not buying software, you're buying time. And the decision should be based on how you allocate that time and what impact that allocation is going to have to the business.
Sure.
It's a much different conversation.
Because you're focusing on the end result and a major benefit, not the actual process or the technology behind it. So I agree wholeheartedly with this, because this is something that we struggle with in our industry, is trying to explain the back end of what we do. And we can go on this whole hour-long tangent, and I can explain to you all this stuff. Or I can just say, you take this little plastic card and you put it up to the reader and the door opens. Or you take your phone out and you hit unlock the door and the door opens.
I like those.
That's all you need to know, right? You don't need to know all of the other components, and it just makes you confused or afraid because you don't know all the ins and outs of it, which is what you just described. So how are you going about that process as a whole from a marketing, from a sales, it is just completely finding people, sitting down and teaching them?
It's well, I got to tell you, it's difficult because one of our issues is we're growing so fast.
Yeah.
And the problem with growing so fast is that it's kind of hard to kind of catch up with, where it's going. And I don't really want to catch up with where it's going. I want it to keep growing.
Yeah.
But so a lot of times it comes down to we market and sell the software. And we're slowly figuring out that we need to market and sell the impact. So I don't know if we're 100% there yet. But I don't know. I don't want to talk about it.
Well, let me ask you this. As the company has grown, right? So you're seeing success year over year. The number of employees significantly growing, the number of customers significantly growing.
Yeah.
From a sales perspective to actual execution, how have you bridged the gap? Because this is a conversation that I have with a lot of business leaders all the time. Bridging that gap at every level where you were the guy pitching this idea.
Yeah.
Now you're not.
Yeah.
You're coaching the people that are pitching the idea.
I don't even do that. I influence the people who influence the people who influence the people who influence the people who do the work.
And how do you maintain that level of customer confidence or the experience? Is it growing? Is it becoming better? Or like how? I would imagine the first several customers that were with Avid Exchange are now experiencing a different level of service, better, worse, different. It's different than when it was 40 people versus thousands.
It's true. I say this: the first 200 customers we had were more like significant partners to us, and there was this whole kind of back and forth on all of this with what they needed and what they needed to be successful. And now it's a lot more transactional.
Yeah.
And and I don't think that that's a bad thing. Matter of fact, I personally think it's a good thing because we've gotten to that group of people. We've gotten past the early adopters, and we're starting to chip away at that middle group, which is where everyone in a business wants to be.
So it's almost like this is the norm now. So this is what everybody's. We experienced the same thing in one of our key card systems. It was cloud based, and when we first started selling the idea was back in 2006, 2007, and cloud computing was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And now with Apple, it's a big player like Apple comes in and says, here's iCloud, and then everybody's like, oh, that makes sense.
We started in 2002.
Yep.
We were in the beta group for .NET, and the funny thing about it is, so we were in the cloud before the cloud was ever the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that 53% of people surveyed believes that the cloud can be affected by the weather?
That's funny.
You should fact check that.
It's just made that up.
75% of all statistics are made up
on the spot.
But so what were we talking about? No, my dad, he calls me like in 2009, and he goes, Christopher, you better look into this thing called the cloud. I think it's going to be big.
Yeah.
I'm like, thanks, Dad. 7 years too late.
Well, I guess the point of the conversation was, as it's become more normal, it's allowed the company to grow exponentially because you've broken through the cycle of convincing people that this is the way to go. Well, this is already a proven fact. Now, do you want to join or not?
Yeah, so there's a lot I want to say about this. Going back to the innovation piece. By the way, I have a definition for innovation I want to share with everyone.
Okay.
Because I went and looked it up on the Googles. Have you heard of the Googles?
Yeah, I've been there a time or two.
Check it out. Everyone over 50 pluralizes all technology.
The internets.
The internets, the YouTubes, the
Walmarts.
Twitters. Yes. So I was on the Googles looking for a little insight on what innovation is because I was getting ready to teach a class at UNCC on it.
Yeah.
And it said the definition of innovation was the process of innovating. Yeah, that's bad. I mean, my mom, I'm afraid that my mom's going to see this definition and want to call people at Google to tell them that you can never use the word anyway. But so my definition of innovation is it's better than what it was.
Yeah.
And that's it. And here's the thing. So we do this. One of the things that I need at Avid Exchange, we have 1,500 employees. I need all 1,500 of those employees to think in an innovative type way.
Mm-hmm.
Now that seems a little crazy, a little chaotic, because there are some people that just do process jobs.
Yeah.
And we don't want them to go crazy and, do some kind of crazy process because it's innovative.
Yeah.
But the thing about innovation, I think that's gotten a really bad brand or rap is that people are thinking, well, in order for me to be innovative, I got to find Elon Musk and I need to build a rocket ship and go to Mars.
Sure.
But that's not true. If it's slightly better, that's innovative.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge fan of doing really small innovations over a long period of time. And you'll be shocked on how much you can achieve. And one of the things I'll tell people, and I want to tell the audience here, is that you can really find out if you're really going after your goals, revenue goals or employee goals or customer count. You can find out that you're truly going after those goals, really going after them, if you realize they're set too low. That's the only indication that tells you that you're really going after your goals. And so at Avid Exchange, we'd set a line in the sand and say, we want to go after this revenue. And before we'd ever hit it, and I'm talking about way before we'd ever hit it, we're saying, we're going to hit this thing. Let's just move it up a little bit. Let's move it up a little bit. That's how you get $1 billion company.
That's very interesting. So I wanted, one of the notes that I had on here was about setting goals. I read in an article that you had done with businessnorthcarolina.com, I think.
Yeah, you really did your research. That's creepy.
There's
a lot out there, isn't there? I'm an open book.
Yeah, hey, just Google Chris Elmore and it all comes up.
That's true.
You were talking about the fact that you set goals annually.
Yeah.
How personal goals, I would imagine business goals as well. How much of that do you attribute to your personal growth and development and the business growth and development?
Well, 100%. I mean, that's
why
the
is
only
that?
thing.
Why?
Well, because and I have a thing about definition is if you can't define something, you can't achieve it.
Yeah.
So I have a definition for success. I have a definition for happiness. I have a definition for having a great day.
Yeah.
And then these goals support those definitions. And so now it's going to get creepy. Maybe we'll do trust falls and hugs a little later.
That'll work.
But I believe that if you concentrate on you as a person and doing the personal improvement, I believe that the business stuff just follows right along.
Yeah.
And the reason why I believe that is because when I first got out of college and I first got married, by the way, if my wife ever leaves me, I'm going with her.
Yeah.
That's something I have to say every time. Have you ever noticed that when couples get older, they start looking similar? One day I'm going to be hot. And she won't have a beard.
Yeah. I'm glad you went that way. Okay.
Yeah, of course. You asked me about my coffee earlier.
Yes.
You said, how do you like your coffee? And I said, I like my wife hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we
you
were
probably
talking
could
about
edit
goals.
that
out. Oh, it all stays in. It all stays in.
All right. So yeah, goals and go ahead.
Well, it's very interesting what you're saying. I was listening to a podcast literally on the way here from Michael Hyatt. Have you ever heard of Michael Hyatt?
I have, yes.
And he was answering a question that somebody had sent in about how to set revenue goals. And one of the things that he said was understanding how to set goals is setting a goal that makes you a little bit scared is a good way to do it. But he also said that a driving factor for them and their business growth has been, and exactly what you just said, almost verbatim, was personal improvement for him leads to business improvement as a whole.
Yeah.
I think that's an important thing to unpack is, as business leaders, what are you doing to develop yourself personally, and how does that roll over into the organization?
And I had this moment of clarity and wisdom when I was 24, which I think it was the only moment of clarity and wisdom I had at 24, and I was just married. And I thought, and I started selling life insurance, and I was terrible at it, just awful. The first year I was in business, I made six figures, $2,163.72.
I read that in an article.
It's the exact number. Yeah, I was terrible at it, and I thought if I could just get some clients and start making some money, then I'd be a good husband. That was what was in my head, because I really wanted to be a good husband.
Yeah. And
I realized that my wife had a very different view of the whole thing. And I thought, well, shoot, if I said, maybe I got this all wrong. So I flipped it and I started concentrating on that relationship. And at 24 years old, I really didn't have the tools or the instincts or the experience or the wisdom. I did one thing that was really interesting, is I asked her if she would be cool if we put a scale of 1 to 10 system in on all of our decisions.
Okay.
And so whatever we had to decide, I'd just say, where are you at this number? And she'd go, well, I'm an 8. And I'd say, well, shoot, I'm a 6. And we just do whatever she wanted to do.
Gotcha.
And that's made it to where she and I don't argue.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But the great thing about it is now we've been married for 26 years.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to have the, scale of 1 to 10 because we just know where each other was at.
Gotcha. You've created those kind of boundaries along the way of understanding. Okay, so in the process of where were we at here? in the process of setting goals, personal development, how much of your time are you dedicating to personal development if that's something that's helping the business grow?
Well, every day I do something.
Mm-hmm.
And like you, I'll listen to podcasts if I'm not on my motorcycle. And the other thing is I write 500 words a day. That really helps. And then I start my Monday exactly the same, which is I'm a big fan of Mondays. That's not one of my favorite days. I feel like I'm getting a fresh start, an opportunity. So the first thing that I do is I type up how I did last week
mm-hmm.
on all of my goals, and then I write what I need to focus and concentrate on this week, and then I just do a to-do list. And then every day I'm referring to it.
Gotcha.
That's it.
So
I've been doing that for 23 years.
Very structured, staying on top
Mm-hmm.
of the things that are important and reassessing those on a weekly basis.
And that goes back to the notion of it's amazing how much you can achieve by doing small things over a long period of time.
Yeah. Creating habits.
Yep.
So let me ask you this: as part of the story that I heard you give during your presentation, during your talk, were
you creeped out when I cried?
I don't think so. You were talking about a moment during, you can correct me on the timeline, but there was a moment when you got your car repossessed.
That's true. Yeah. Now this is the one thing my wife has said: don't tell people. But why would you bring that up?
It was Well, I've been in the same situation.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, and
Wow.
so I was interested in how what kind of defining moment that was for you, and how it changed your perspective on a lot of things.
Well, by the way, it was absolutely humiliating. It was humiliating, and then family members. I should probably name their names because there was this whole backlash on not having two cars. So we got one repoed and we had one left. So we were a one-car family.
Yeah.
But there was this whole backlash on...
Not to interrupt you,
No,
but was this in the Avid Exchange era?
Oh,
or
yeah.
Was this, okay.
Oh, yeah. No, this was So Avid Exchange started in 2000, and in 2001, I got the car repoed because the first 2 years, we kind of had 3 product failures.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't... I got a worse story. Did I tell you the Subway story? I got 3 credit cards declined at Subway, and they made me leave. That may
be worse than getting a repossessed car.
That is. I mean, dude, the thing about the repossession was the Nissan Altima, so I can't get anything to eat at Subway, and I can't afford a Nissan Altima. I mean, this is not good. This is not good. We got worse because we were in a house for $420 a month in Lincolnton.
Oh wow.
And I'll give you the address if you want to Google it. It's got some horrible pictures on it. But the thing, so
you got a lot of backlash is where you were going. I'm sorry.
The family, the backlash, and it wasn't the immediate family, but that extended family kind of threw some darts, and it was absolutely humiliating. But the perspective, this is a great question, by the way. Nice job. You should really do this professionally. The perspective was, to me, it was shocking. It was like, wait a minute. So I can't afford 2 cars, so therefore I'm a failure. And did you know that if you own a car, you're in the top 9% of the wealthiest people in the world?
No, wow.
And
is that a real fact? Or
that is a real fact. Okay. Yeah, you can fact check that one. Fact check that one. That's a real fact. And I think in the United States we lose perspective on, what it means to struggle.
Yeah.
And not being able to get Subway, and we didn't starve.
Yeah.
I mean, we had food. It just happened. We had 2 people give us cars.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. One guy gave us a van that had 412,000 miles on it.
Solid.
That thing was running, and it's probably still running today.
Runs air, good.
Yeah.
Cold air.
I remember selling it, and I sold it off of Craigslist, and people would say, it says in the article it has lots of miles. And I said, yeah, it's 412. Hello? And if I could get someone to hang on the line, I would go, look, it's fully depreciated. It's not. There's really no more depreciation that can happen after 400,000 miles.
What a great selling point.
Yeah, I mean, I love the chase.
So you had people rally around you during that time.
We had some incredible people. Just and the thing was, we weren't looking for handouts, but I have another thing for entrepreneurs. I call it being attractive. Not like you, attractive, handsome man with the beard and the glasses. Oh wait, is that me? But there's a notion that when you're an entrepreneur or even a salesperson, you have to be attractive and physically attractive. There's I don't know if I put too much on that, but with your attitude and with your behavior and with your your thought processes and how you deal with people, have you ever run into someone that just kind of pushes people away, and they're an entrepreneur and they're like, I have no idea how I'm, why I can't get anywhere?
Yeah.
Well, it's because people don't like you. You're somehow repulsive. and they're shocked, but I got this great idea and I got this great product.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're turning people away. There's something about you that's so as horrible as we were, we still had people who thought that the vision and then the idea and the future, there was something there. Now, nobody could have predicted what's happened.
Yeah.
Not even us.
Yeah.
But the long and short of it is, and I had a mentor, he'd always say this. He says, if there's hope in the present, there's power in the future.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that. And that's why people were willing to help us out.
They believed in the vision of what was potential, but they hadn't yet seen it yet.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting thing when you were talking earlier about influencing the influencers on down the line. That is just, I think that's part of it, is understanding what the vision is and staying focused with it day in, day out. Like, you've said for the past 24 years, you've had strategic goals that you've been checking on weekly, and that's part of the process. It's understanding. I think that's one of the things with the Avid Exchange story and with your story that probably resonated with me whenever I was listening to it, is that people don't see 24 years. People don't see the repossessed car. People don't see all of those things. They see, wow, $1.4 billion must be nice.
Yeah.
But they don't understand the time and effort that's been put in all those years, and then all of a sudden it just popped.
Well, they don't see 6,000 pitches and 5,000 cold calls.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to create a skill that can just send them through professional life, it's cold calling and presenting.
Yeah.
I mean, those are just 2 skills that if you obtain them, no one's going to take them away, and you can pretty much do anything.
Yeah. Did you expect to be at this point in your life?
Yeah.
You did.
So when I was in kindergarten, I remember I wanted to be married. I wanted to have a great relationship with my wife. I wanted to have kids, and I wanted to own a business. And I had, and my brother makes fun of me, who's not doing nearly as well as me. We should call him.
Congratulations, phone a friend. You're a guest.
I know. So he makes fun of me because I used to go to kindergarten in a blazer and carry a briefcase. Because my 3 goals were, when I grow up, I wanted to wear a suit, drink coffee, and carry a briefcase.
There you go.
Those are my goals.
So you've shed the suit.
Yeah, I don't own a suit. I mean, I own a suit, but I don't own a tie, and I wear the same.
Nobody
thing
would be
every
able to see
day.
the knot anyway. So.
Yeah, no. I had some guy in New Orleans trying to sell me a bow tie. I'm like, come on, man, really? Really?
You're gonna have to have a really good pitch on that one.
Yeah. So,
so that was always your goal to move to that.
Yeah, and I started my first business in 1976, and it was actually I was 7, and it was pretty successful in the respect that I was making about $25 to $30 a week.
Yep.
And I think that was more than my mom. She was a part-time school teacher.
Yeah.
And it was a garbage business, and I went to our apartment complex because the garbage dump was down the hill in Boone. It was pretty hilly. So I just knocked on every door, and I said, if you set your bag out on your front door, I will pick it up, and at the end of the week, I'll charge you 50 cents a bag.
Yeah.
And so I started. By the way, the business was so good, I went into management, and I hired my little sister.
There you go.
She was 5.
Yeah.
And she turned over the garbage, and I fired her. Now, here's the thing. I didn't know she was unionized.
Oh.
And so her union rep, my dad, comes to my office, which was the folding chairs. And he says, Christopher, Jill's crying. I think you should give her another chance. And I said this, Dad, I'm running a business here, and I can't have that. So I've softened greatly since 1976.
You learn how to deal with people a little better.
Yeah, much better. That's one of the joys about being an entrepreneur, especially an entrepreneur that has access to 1,500 people to influence, is that I realize that the business is going to be successful if they're successful. That's the thing. We invest in them. They're successful. We're successful. That's the only way it works.
Well, it goes back to what you were saying earlier about personal improvement, personal development. If you replicate that for everyone in the organization, well, it's just going to be a multiplier. It's not just going to be you that's developing. It's if you've unlocked the ability to develop people within your organization, then that's where the multiplication happens.
Yeah, I talk to every new employee, and it's usually in a group because we hire about 30 people a week, or 15 people a week, about 30 every 2 weeks. And I tell them one thing. I say, and I give them a little history and things like that. It's my favorite thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, look, here's the thing. Part of you are going to want to plant a flag here and start a career.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I want to help you. Other parts,
mm-hmm.
others of you, there we go, are just going to want to work.
Yeah.
You're going to want to show up here at 8 o'clock, and you're going to want to leave at 5 o'clock,
mm-hmm.
and then you want to take an hour lunch. And I said, I'm cool with that. By the way, we have plenty of work to do.
Yeah.
And I don't want them to feel like that we value the career people more than the people that just want to work.
Yeah.
Because they're equally as important. And the funny thing about that is that when you give them the freedom just to say, cool, I just want to do my job,
mm-hmm.
they usually take the career path.
Yeah.
There's something about that really inspires them to plant a flag.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So dealing with people, coaching people, kind of casting that vision, that's kind of the daily thing that you're into now, is that?
Mostly, and then I do a bunch of pitching. I'm getting ready to go on tour.
Okay.
So I'm going to go to, next week is Atlanta, Birmingham, Columbus, and then we're going to Orlando, 2 in Orlando, and then Vegas. All of them are conferences.
Okay.
So I love doing the conferences.
So you're working a booth.
I don't work booths anymore. I have paid my booth dues. I'll show up at the booth randomly,
Shake hands,
kiss
babies,
sign books,
yeah,
and then I'll do my sessions.
So you're doing more education type pitches.
Yeah.
Okay. So the other thing that I found interesting doing research. So you mentioned it earlier, teaching a class at Skill Pop, but you also do some other teaching at the university.
Yeah. I'm an adjunct professor, and I've been teaching at Queens for the last 3 years and UNCC for the last 6.
Okay.
And that, which, I hate to say this, but I was in the half of the class that made the top half possible in school. I wasn't.
Yeah.
You get it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was hilarious. Maybe we can put a laugh track in. But
and now you're teaching the class.
Yeah,
or different classes?
I got there's another university that we're going back and forth that I'm not at liberty to say, and it's not Liberty, but I'm going back and forth. It's a big, well-known, international university, and I remember coming back from our initial discussions. I called my dad, who's a college professor, and I said, "Dad, it's so cool that a school wants me to teach there that I never would have gotten in it as a student."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that storyline with a couple of other entrepreneur types. It's school necessarily didn't do well in school, or school didn't do well for them, but now they're back in there teaching some of the things that they've learned. What type of classes are you teaching? What kind? It seems like just kind of like with this book and everything else, that's a passion of yours, is teaching. What are you teaching?
Well, so I teach entrepreneurship. We'll do the air quotes on that. What I want to teach is selling, but I felt like, and this was really counsel from the school, I felt like if we did a selling class, that no one would really sign up for.
Yeah.
It's got such a negative brand. So about a third, I believe that great entrepreneurs have to have passion, and they have to have the ability to sell. And if you look at entrepreneurs that struggle versus entrepreneurs that don't struggle, they have the ability to sell, and their desire is to sell.
Yeah.
The thing is that when selling is done really well, nobody feels like they're in the middle of a sales deal.
Yeah.
It's in that, and that's what I want to get to. That's what I want. And so I'm looking for a place, whether it's a university, and I'm a proud product of the community college system here in North Carolina. So it might be that, well, it's not a university level curriculum. Maybe it's a trade school kind of thing. So I'm trying to figure that out, and I have a real desire for entrepreneurs to get the joy of bootstrapping, and just only investing the revenue they create over time, and so
it's a hard road to haul, but the benefits pay out in the long run.
They do. I mean, it allows you to keep all your equity, and if you take money too early for the wrong reason and the wrong amount, it can destroy your idea, destroy your company. So I'm, unless someone can build a forecast and a pipeline, they're not ready to take on money.
Yeah.
Unless they can say in 6 months we're going to have this revenue, they're not ready for money.
Yeah.
You got to get to that point before you can ever say, I want to raise some funds.
So as part of your teaching, and you're also doing speaking.
Yeah.
What are those talks typically look like? I know the one that I experienced, which was very impactful and powerful. But what is kind of your goal with that process?
Well, I hope to do more of that. Really, I hope I want to concentrate on speaking. Hopefully, people listening to this podcast will get the notion that they should check out the website and hit me up. That's what I call a shameless plug. But we talked about this, is that if you need someone for your conference, or just for your office, or just for a meetup or anything like that, I have 3 topics that I've been kind of honing in on, but I can talk about a lot of stuff. So I talk about this, don't do stupid stuff, which is the whole thing about, what's the modern day selling? So selling to teaching, what does it mean to be innovative? What does it mean to sell in an innovative way? And then the one that you saw is that's called what I call the science of happiness. So I talk about what does it mean to be happy.
Yeah. I
know that sounds kind of creepy, but so many people pursue happiness, but they never have a definition, they never have a goal, and you just won't be able to get there.
Yeah.
And then the last one I do is called the art of the pivot. And that's really an entrepreneurial talk. I got a thing, and one of my universities one day will pick up on this and do some serious research, is that I believe that it takes 7 major pivots to create a great idea. And so many entrepreneurs struggle against the pivot, and they're like, no matter what, we're going to be the such and such for this market. But it's really, you have to kind of let your customers bring you along, and you have to be willing to follow them. And the tough part is down the right road.
Yeah.
How do you know which road is the right one?
Because you're listening to everybody. Everybody's asking for every little thing imaginable, and understanding what is scalable, and getting a hold of that, but being willing to pivot, not being so structured and this is just what we're going to do.
And that's the thing about Avid Exchange is, we created a piece of technology for real estate accountants. That was our original niche, and no one really knew a lot about it.
Yeah.
The technology, accounting, we knew nothing about accounting and very little about real estate.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that was so helpful to us, is because we knew so little about the thing that we were serving, we had to really listen to our customers. Like, listen to them so we can make our Nissan Altima payments.
Sure, yeah.
Or go to the Subway.
Yeah. It was a major impact at that point.
And I call that listening through the customer. So you have to listen to what the customer says, and then you have to go through them to what the real purpose is.
Yeah, what they're actually trying to accomplish.
And that's a hard thing to do, and that's a thing that it's one of the things that I love to do. And it's one of the skills that I've honed over the years, is that really, Steve Jobs was really good at that.
Mm-hmm.
He was a good friend of mine, and I mean, we never met, but I'm sure we would have gotten along.
I mean, I've read his book, so we're practically
pretty close.
buds,
I mean, I have his phone.
No, but it's very true. Understanding what people are asking for without them telling you, because a lot of times people don't know. I love the quote, and it's not a Steve Jobs quote, but he references it in the book about Henry Ford.
Yeah.
If people wanted if they would have asked what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. They wouldn't have said a car.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And that was the great thing about Jobs. And by and large, Avid Exchange didn't start a company. We didn't create a product. And what we did was, everything that we do is we created an industry. Really.
Yeah.
And that industry didn't exist before we came along. And the problem with that is, again, people are freaked out by it and they have no idea what you're doing. But I highly recommend it, because that's how you create. I mean, I have no problem with a nail salon, but if you open a nail salon, it's not innovative.
Yeah.
And it could be, but it's probably not. And you're just going to fight with everyone else on price and maybe a little bit of service, but you won't raise up $1 billion company off a nail salon. It's hard to do.
Yeah.
So you have to be innovative. You have to do something that's brand new, and at Avid Exchange we've done that. And by the way, we're getting ready to do that again.
Yeah.
Every 6 years we come out with a genius product, and the next one that's percolating, it just looks brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see, and I would imagine that yourself and the other founders of Avid Exchange kind of have a high level of, I don't say pride, but accomplishment for what you've done and how it's impacted Charlotte. I mean, again, you started in a small space down the road. Was that where you actually started?
No, we
started elsewhere.
We started at 9th and Brevard Street, even smaller.
All right.
I remember we had a table, we had laptops, but no chairs.
There you go.
Yeah, that was our first business decision.
That's very, very, very familiar. So when we started a lot of our growth in Panera Bread, sharing tables with other people. But right now you have a whole section of Charlotte that's Avid Exchange.
Yeah,
the whole music factory, which is really cool, just to be able to turn down the road and see. I would imagine that's a very good level of accomplishment that you turn down that road and you see your logo as far as you can see.
Well, yes, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
And this fuels me, and that is the potential to grow is so much greater, and that's what I'm focused on. My coach always tells me that. I have a coach. He's a great guy, Doug Bacon. I say everything goes well with Bacon. That's his real name. That's not a stage name.
That's good.
And he always says, remember, you're focused down the road on everything.
Yeah.
And so that means that what you're doing right here, right now, is less significant to you.
Yeah.
And he's exactly right about that. And I'm so focused because I really think that, our valuation is 1.4 right now. I really think that we, who knows where we can go with that.
Sure.
But the potential for us to be one of the top 20 software companies in the entire country is there.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm focused on, is that potential.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's wild and exciting all simultaneously. So a couple of takeaways that I've had from this conversation.
Oh, good.
Goals, set goals.
Yep.
And always evaluate them.
Yep.
And don't be afraid to move them up, but create goals that are a little bit scary. Don't be too caught on failure, but keep doing the same habits over and over again, and it will create some success for you.
The toughest question, you didn't ask it, the toughest question I always get is, how do you deal with failure?
Yeah.
I can't answer it. I don't think I've ever failed.
Yeah.
I just don't think. I know that sounds stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think I've ever failed. I've done things wrong, but
not a complete failure.
I don't think so.
Just recognize that it was wrong and change it.
People say, how do you deal with failure? I'm like, oh, can't I really remember a time that we failed, really? I mean, we had some expensive lessons.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I just picked up from you is have a coach.
Coach is great. Having a coach is great. And then the thing about having a coach is that my coach is such a different person than me.
Mm-hmm.
And he keeps me honest. And we've been together for a while.
Yeah.
And he calls me on all of my BS. And he's the only guy that can do it.
It's funny that you say that because, I mean, I this is no exaggeration. Within the past hour, I was having a conversation about that, and I said, this one guy, I can see him to be a good coach because he's one of the few people that I can't bullcrap.
Yeah.
And I think that's impactful because you have to have somebody that can keep you honest.
It's true.
And challenge you. So
it's true.
Chris, I want to be mindful of your time. I know our conversation has gone a little longer than expected, but it's been very impactful for me.
Did we set a record?
No.
Dang it! All right.
We'll have to keep going for another 20 minutes.
About other stuff. All right.
But I appreciate it. You have set lots of other records for us, so I really appreciate.
Which one did I say?
I don't know, but we'll make them up.
Yeah. Okay.
We appreciate it. Thank you very much for the book. If you are interested in it, you can go to thechriselmore.com.
That's right.
The official website of that, and you can check you out on social media at the Chris Elmore for more information. You can check out the hat, the beard, and all the other things.
Snappy dresser. Hey, thanks for this. I appreciate it.
No, thank you very much. Yeah, it was our pleasure. For those of you who are watching or listening for the first time, we've got tons of these out there. This is we're well into a full year of podcasts, so there's over 55, 60 episodes, I believe, available, and we would ask you to subscribe. You can visit loc-doc.net/podcast to get all of the podcast networks that you can subscribe to, and you can hear all of the podcasts there or on your favorite app. They're also available in video form on Facebook and YouTube, and we would love for you to be able to watch that and see that. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those below. If you're listening on iTunes podcast app, please rate this podcast so that it will make it available for other people, and feel free to comment with your questions. We'd love to hear from you. Chris, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time here on the Coffee Break Podcast. To learn more about the topics discussed today and to connect with us online to hear all of the episodes available, visit loc-doc.net/podcast.
We got so much to say. We got a podcast to make. We're sipping on lattes, and it's time for a coffee break. It's time for a coffee break. Oh, yeah.
The Coffee Break Podcast is brought to you by Loc-Doc Security. We'd love to connect with you online on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Just search LOCDOCINC.